This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's going on, real MVPs? How you doing? Welcome back inside the studio here, and I'm talking like I'm on the radio, and I'm not, but...
Oh, you're on a radio.
I'm on a radio.
We could be playing in someone's car radio. They could be listening on podcast services around the world, Brandon.
We could, but I opened that up like I opened up a lot of college radio shows that I have, and I say I apologize, but I don't necessarily. It's funny. It takes me back to the good old days. But again, so happy to have you here watching, listening again with us. Brandon Swanson. Across the table from me is Ricky Widmer.
What's up, guys?
And it is What's Your Fantasy? Yet again, coming at you fantasy football style. We are back in full swing. And we are talking about some things that you all are wondering, you fantasy footballers. Who's going to break out this year? Who's going to be a bust, and who is laying in the weeds as a sleeper? Those are all...
Those pesky weeds, man.
Those pesky weeds. Those are all the questions that we want to know, that we're asking ourselves, that we're picking up fantasy football magazines from your local CVS or Walgreens or wherever you can find them.
I remember when
because I'm doing it.
That.
I still do it.
Yeah, I just look online now. I just look online.
I could look online, but I also enjoy the fantasy football magazine because it takes me back to the good old days, and I like the good old days, don't we all? But before we get things started here, of course, if you want to support this podcast or other podcasts that we have here on MVP, make sure to go to patreon.com and become a patron. You can do that for just $1 today. $1. You can support what we are doing here. You can certainly do more. We do not restrict. We never will do that. But $1, and you can... help us with some of the things that we're trying to achieve here at MVP, which are many things to continue to bring you guys good content.
Also, I'm going to add on, if you want to join the ESPN Fantasy League, there are spots that are still open, because I will say I did tell the patrons, one of the perks of being a patron is they got to see the link the night before, so patrons got the chance to grab a spot before non-patrons, but click the link down below. Open spots, first come, first serve to the Fantasy Football League for What's Your Fantasy and MVP, and it's a league free to join. Brandon and I have a team, the What's Your Fantasy team, and the winner will get a gift card to something probably. Like, just, it might be B-dubs, it might be Applebee's, like...
Whatever we're feeling that day.
You gotta love those apps, so... You'll get a gift card for winning the league. Join that down below.
And Ricky, when are we starting the league again? What's the date on that?
What are we drafting?
What's the date on the league? Did you do, because you did the video for that, didn't you?
Actually, we're doing the video after this podcast.
Excellent.
So there'll be a separate one, but if you're watching this one, it's down below already.
Okay.
So I was just telling people that are listening to the podcast.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
The podcast.
Excellent. All right, so we are going to roll right into it, and we are talking again today, bus breakouts, sleeper candidates for this upcoming season, and the season is so close. This week, this Thursday, is preseason week 2, which, by the way, we probably only need about 2 weeks for. Are you kidding me? I'm with all the people who want to knock that down. So let's start off. Ricky didn't want me to tell him what we were starting off with, but
let's to be kept on my toes.
Let's start off with the busts.
Ooh.
Let's start off with the busts for this year.
Can I be completely honest?
Yes.
I hate you.
Okay.
Because busts is the only one where I'm like, man, I don't know what I'm going to say for busts.
But I'm glad I went with it. So starting off with a bust, I'm going to throw one out there that's not on any list I've seen, which makes it even better, and I'm completely coming up with it myself. Original content, which is what you should be getting from us. And I'm going to throw it out there, and you can disagree. How about Phillip Rivers?
No, don't say that.
I know.
Don't say Phillip Rivers.
I know.
So just so everyone is aware, I just joined the big dynasty league that you've been in for years, and Phillip, it's my quarterback.
That's your quarterback.
Talk about my quarterback, Brandon. My quarterback.
But I say Phillip Rivers, and of course I have to come back with something there. So I say Phillip Rivers because right now he doesn't have his number one running back ready to go for Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon's not reporting. Melvin Gordon's not happy. He wants to get paid. He deserves to get paid, but the Chargers are holding pretty firm. He's not going to get paid what he wants to be paid. I think they'll maybe pay him $10 million. Certainly not what he's worth, not what he is wanting. So if you don't have Melvin Gordon, your backups are Justin Jackson, who was formidable last year, and Austin Eckler, who also was formidable. But how long will they be able to be formidable for? Will they be able to hold that role and shoulder a workload similar to, even split between the two of them, similar to what Melvin Gordon was doing, and can they do it at the same level that he was doing it at? So that's one of the things. I also wonder, Hunter Henry's coming back, a tight end who is predicted to be in the top 7 tight ends in the league for this season. And I like Hunter Henry. I like him a lot, but how healthy is he? I understand, they say he looks good, he's feeling good, everything like that, but when you get into game situation, that's where it all changes. Is he going to be fresh? Is he going to be that same red zone target that he was a couple of years back when he caught like 8 touchdowns in the season, that same season that Antonio Gates was still there as well? And then I just wonder, how is that Chargers offense going to come together? Is Mike Williams going to make that next leap? He should. It's time for him to do that. Keenan Allen, is he going to be able to hold up? Gosh, you pray that he will, because those injuries that have hit him in the past, those ACLs, terrible. When he's been healthy, he's been very, very good. No more Tyrell Williams, so their deep threat's not there. I guess you still have Travis Benjamin, but how effective is Benjamin? He's a deep threat for sure with his speed, but he's certainly not as good of a player, especially if you're going by a Madden rating, of a Mike Williams or certainly of a Keenan Allen. So those are the question marks I have around it. The biggest one being, if there's no Melvin Gordon, what could happen there, and how does that affect Phillip Rivers? And Rivers needs guys who are going to, get things done around him. I mean, we know he's one of the most vocal guys out there on the field. However, I have heard one of the most vocal does not swear when he's out there talking to the guys. I love that about him.
Well, yeah, he's got like 16 kids he's got to set a good example for.
Yeah, it's Philip and Kate. It's not his wife's name. Philip and Kate plus 24.
They're going to have a baseball team soon.
They are. But I like Phillip Rivers. I think he's really good, but I just have those question marks about him this year for those reasons.
And I don't know why. Like, for me, the Melvin Gordon thing, I don't think affects Phillip Rivers. I think it affects Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler. And I bring up Eckler because both you and I had him on the What's Your Fantasy team last year, waiver wire pickup. The thing I look at is, like, yes, the running backs are a question. The thing with Eckler that's going to be a question is, last year he kind of got, I'm going to say, shielded by Melvin Gordon, where Melvin Gordon was the main guy. He was the main rusher. Austin Eckler could fit that kind of secondary back, could be used more in receptions, because last year the reception numbers for both of them were actually Melvin Gordon had more receptions, 50 to 39, but like Austin Eckler only had 106 carries for 500 yards. So let's say Melvin Gordon doesn't play, which he doesn't plan to unless he gets a deal. Where are those 175 carries going to go? Where are those 50 receptions out of 66 targets going to go? And that's really the only question to me. Like, Hunter Henry is a little bit of one, only because he's got to stay healthy. Like, that's it. But, like, they still got Virgil Green on this team that I think will be fine. I think it's not scary, but at least it's someone to catch the ball. I think that Keenan Allen had one of the first years where he was healthy for the majority of the year. Started 14, played 16, and he had over an 1,000-yard season. Mike Williams also, I think, is fine. Travis Benjamin, I think, is fine. Like, I don't think Phillip Rivers is going to have a huge drop-off, because last year he had a total of 285 fantasy points, which is his highest since 2015, where he had 284. His highest ever was the 2013 season, when he had 286. But even if he drops back to the 270s, 260s, is it ideal? No. More points is usually better. But I don't think it's going to be like, whoa, where did Phillip Rivers go? I need a new quarterback kind of a situation if you are thinking about drafting him or if you have him in a dynasty league.
And like I said, I think Phillip Rivers is a good quarterback. I like him as a person for sure. I just also wonder because so many people are so high on the Chargers this year. A lot of people believe that the Chargers could win that. I almost said the American League West, and that is incorrect. That is still baseball mind. But to win the AFC West, and when they have such high expectations like that, you almost get a little nervous that is there going to be too much to shoulder in terms of that, of the expectations. And we saw how it affected the Steelers just in terms of Ben Roethlisberger was still good last year.
Yeah.
He still had Juju Smith-Schuster. He still had Antonio Brown. He had Vance McDonald. He had Jesse James and stuff like that. But it did affect the Steelers when Le'Veon Bell was not reporting. Will he report this week? It affected them. We saw it. I mean, they showed us in just in the reports and stuff like that, and the stuff that we'd see on NFL Network and ESPN. When you're going into the locker room, these guys, they're asking these questions. They're asking these guys these questions every single day. I mean, people started to take stuff from Le'Veon Bell's locker because they knew he wasn't coming. I mean, it's because it becomes a distraction. And when it becomes a distraction like that, externally, it is definitely going to be a distraction internally. You hope that does not happen. But as we talked about a couple of weeks ago, Le'Veon Bell set the landscape for how other guys could do this. And if he's willing to sit out all season, believing he deserves more money, which he does, he'll do it. And that's just going to hurt the Chargers. Well, and I think that's where it could really hurt Phillip Rivers and what he's trying to do just because the scheme is then different. Now, if they find a gem, and I'm not saying that Justin Jackson and Austin Eckler aren't gems, but clearly the Steelers did when the running back that they brought up to replace Le'Veon Bell was fantastic, whose name I'm currently forgetting. If you remember James Conner, thank you. He was really good. Thank goodness for that, for their sake. But is the same thing going to happen where Austin Eckler and Justin Jackson they just break out? That would be the question.
Yeah,
and that affects Phillip Rivers.
So the thing that I want to say too is, and this is why I'm kind of glad you picked busts first, because it's the hardest to define. And for me, I'm actually going to go into my bust.
Yeah, please.
That I have. And how I define a bust is basically he's unplayable. Like, this is a guy that this season you thought was going to be a starter for you and is unplayable. Like last year, Todd Gurley would be a bust. Or you could say Todd Gurley was a bust because teams like me lost leagues, lost championships because Todd Gurley wasn't there. Like, he didn't play this game, didn't play that game. Oh, he sat out this second half. He was a bust for fantasy owners last year. And for me, Phillip Rivers doesn't fit that. But you want to know who does? A little guy who plays in the NFC South. Who do you think I'm going to say? NFC South quarterback has a new coach coming in.
Well, I was going to say Jameis Winston.
Jameis Winston. Yeah. Straight up bust. I would, if you're thinking about drafting him, go somewhere else. Go anywhere else. Go with one of the rookies. Go with Kyler Murray over Jameis Winston. And the reason why I say that is because, to me, Jameis Winston, and I wanted, like, last year obviously was his lowest point total and lowest yards total that he had. Last year he had 195 fantasy points. The year before he had 102, and he's gone down ever since his rookie season. He had 274 and has gone down each. He also had the lowest yards because he only played 11 games because he was suspended for the first 4. And then it's like, well, we're going to sit you out a couple more because Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to play. And then it's like, no, we're going to sit Fitzpatrick and start you. No, we're going to bench you and put in Fitzpatrick. It was a very chaotic situation in Tampa. And like, I look at what that team is with Bruce Arians coming in, and I know that everything is, hey, they're going to give Jameis the opportunity. Jameis is our quarterback. Like, he's going to start week 1. But I look at that team, and really, to me, besides Mike Evans, O.J. Howard, and maybe Chris Godwin. I know people are going to say, well, Ricky, you're putting some disrespect on Chris Godwin, but maybe those three are the weapons that he has. And plus, on top of it, I know that many people are going to say, Ricky, you're just a Jameis hater. And yes, you could put me in that category. I just have a feeling that we're going to get the Jameis that we've seen the last 2 years, where he struggles to break 3,000. Well, he'll break 3,000 yards, but it'll be barely. And then when it comes to touchdowns, because that's where you're getting most of your points, he's going to be around 15 to 20, probably get like 18 or 19, and then have 14, 15, maybe even 16 interceptions in a season. And that's where I would just say I'm staying away from Jameis Winston, because if you draft him to be your starter this year, it's like the South Park meme, Brandon. You're going to have a bad time.
I think that's interesting that you say that, because, Bruce Arians comes in as the new head coach over there, and everyone says Jameis Winston's stock goes up because he's going to throw the ball more, because Bruce Arians wanted to throw the ball all the time in Arizona, even with David Johnson. But I really do see Jameis improving. I see him improving. A lot of people believe Chris Godwin is, going to have a season, that people are going to look and go, wow, man, he came a long way. Mike Evans' stock, I think, is going up. I think Jameis Winston is actually going to do better this season under Bruce Arians, because he's going to be throwing the football a lot. And for fantasy, that's what people want. They want him to be throwing it a lot. When last year, when Ryan Fitzpatrick was it last year when he was starting those games?
Yep, because Jameis was suspended the first 4.
He started those 4 games. Gosh, they may have not been winning all their games, but he was putting up numbers. 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns. Who cares if they're winning games in fantasy football land? He's putting up numbers. That's what Jameis can do this year. Now, is Tampa Bay going to win games? Don't care. But he can put up numbers.
How is he going to put those up? Because the thing that I look to, and I know Tampa fans are going to say this, I'll bring up Cameron Brate, because he did get a deal. And I'm looking back at 2015 and 2016, Jameis's rookie and sophomore year, where he had arguably his better seasons, threw the ball more those seasons. So we'll see if that's a correlation as well. But I look at the receivers that they had, and his rookie year, Mike Evans was a 1,200-yard receiver, only had 3 touchdowns, but that's because you had Charles Sims, who had 4 touchdowns. You had Vincent Jackson, who had 3. You had Austin Seferian-Jenkins, who had 4. You have Cameron Brate, who had 3. And then you had mixtures of 1 between either Adam Humphries, Doug Martin, and scattered throughout some of the lower guys. Then the next year, Mike Evans gets better, has more yards at like 1,300. And when you look at the touchdowns, Mike Evans had 12. Cameron Brate had 8. Then you had Humphries with 2, Shepard with 2. You had Charles Sims with 1. And I wonder if one of 2 things is going to happen. Are we going to see a season like 2015 where there's, Mike Evans doesn't have 10 to 12, but he's got like maybe 5. But then there's other people that too have like 4, 3, and we're spreading the ball around. Or are we going to get that kind of a season where it's like, hey, Mike Evans went off. Jameis really connected with him. They had over 1,000 yards, 12 touchdowns. And are we going to see that where we have a guy in second, like a Cameron Brate that year, 660 yards, but he had 8 touchdowns that year, which really helps. And that's where Jameis, most of his points are going to come from, is how many touchdowns is he going to get? I don't think he gets to that 28 mark that he had in 2016. I think he gets to that 18-19 mark that he had last year.
I think Jameis has between 25 to 28 touchdowns this year. I really think he can. I think he'll have a lot of. I think he'll have a lot of 300-yard games as well. You have Mike Evans you can throw to. You have an emerging Chris Godwin. You have Cameron Brate. You have O.J. Howard. Remember, O.J. Howard, a tight end, coming along too, making some strides. I mean, how many times where I would see O.J. Howard for a 75-yard touchdown? What? The tight end, right? This can't be right. Obviously, something screwed up here. No. It was O.J. Howard who did it.
Yeah.
He did that a number of times, having some long touchdowns like that. Little Travis Kelce-esque almost. He's got some playmakers. And then they brought on, Brashad Perryman and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know if,
guys who got to prove themselves.
He didn't work out in Baltimore, but, he's trying to do something here. I think he's got the weapons. Jameis just has to improve on what he's done from the last couple of years. He needs to put out all the noise that has happened in the past and, his suspension and all that type of stuff. Get back to football, focus on football, and I think he can get there. I think he can do it. He's got the playmakers. It's just, will they all connect? And part of it does come down to how is his offensive line going to be? Are they going to give him some time so he can make these plays?
So I've got one more too. I'm going to double bag it here.
Okay.
N'Keal Harry. The reason why I'm throwing him in the bust category it's not like a situation of like, oh, N'Keal Harry is garbage. But he's the one rookie wide receiver. Maybe I'm trying to think, maybe like a DK Metcalf may rival him for hype this offseason just because DK Metcalf is DK Metcalf. But here's the reason why I'm going to throw out my second bust as N'Keal Harry. Because he plays for the Patriots, and with Gronk not being there, Patriot fans, people who draft Patriot players, Tom Brady owners, everyone's starving to find that next guy in New England. Because you got Julian Edelman, and it's like, okay, who's going to be that next guy to kind of put up the numbers for New England? And I just think with N'Keal Harry this year, he's going to have way too much hype coming into the season. People are going to expect too much out of him. And his numbers at the end of the year are not going to meet the expectations that most people who are going to draft him are expecting for him this year. That's why I would put N'Keal Harry in the bust category for this year.
I would definitely put him in the I don't know what's going to happen with him category, because on a team where there's no more Gronkowski, that's definitely going to give some targets out to other people. But
because here's their wide receivers.
Yep.
Julian Edelman.
Yep.
Phillip Dorsett. They bring in Dontrell Inman, former Indianapolis Colt. They have Demaryius Thomas, who's currently on the PUP list. And then at tight end, they have Benjamin Watson, who they brought in, but he's suspended the first 4 games of the year. And then they also have Lance Kendrick at tight end as well.
You know what name I heard out of all that garbage?
Julian Edelman.
Julian Edelman.
Yeah.
I heard Julian Edelman.
And then just white noise.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. So that's where I look at N'Keal Harry and I think, okay, you could either be in a really good position because all of these other guys are just like, okay, whatever. But also it could be one of those things where I've always, with the Patriots, it's like, ooh, a Patriots wide receiver. Ooh, it's not Julian Edelman, so will it work? And obviously Wes Welker, when he was there and he was, in his prime, he was doing pretty well. I guess some people would say he was never in his prime with the Patriots, but he was good. I mean, Wes Welker was a solid receiver on that team, along with Julian Edelman and stuff like that. I mean, Danny Amendola never got, caught on there in New England. Randy Moss
he was probably
phenomenal.
The only one to have the phenomenal
he was
season.
like the only one where you look at that and you go, man, he did really, really well. And he did. But Randy Moss was just a different type of target and just human being as well, just with how big he was and everything like that. Totally a Hall of Famer. That's where I don't think I can say that N'Keal Harry is going to be a bust, but I can't say that he's going to be like a sleeper or a breakout or anything like that either. It's a question mark. So maybe I guess I would say he's more of a sleeper than a bust.
And that's why I say the only reason I'm putting him in the bust category is like, if you're in a dynasty league, completely disregard this advice, because the only way I would draft N'Keal Harry this year is if I'm in a dynasty league and
Are you trying to give away some information?
Well, no, I'm just saying, because I'm in our dynasty league, and this is the first dynasty league that I'm in, so it's a different way of thinking. If you're in a dynasty league and you're drafting someone, then it's okay to take him this year, obviously, because someone else will, and you can keep him, because I think it's not going to be something where like he's a bust overall.
Yeah.
It's just this year I feel like, because of how starved we are, because of the Gronk retirement, for somebody to take up the mantle of, it's like Batman's no longer there. Is Dick Grayson going to take up the mantle? People are going to have way too high expectations for N'Keal Harry, where he'll have a good season for a rookie, but I just feel like people are going to think pie in the sky, and when he doesn't get there, be mad because he didn't get to where they thought he would at the beginning of the year.
So my final bust before we move on to our next category.
Okay.
It's Antonio Brown.
Really?
Yeah. It's Antonio Brown.
Do you think he sits out? Do you think he plays? I haven't watched Hard Knocks episode 2. I'm going to do that tonight.
I haven't watched any Hard Knocks yet. I have not watched any Hard Knocks
yet. You got
to
watch it.
I don't have HBO.
I'll give you my login.
Okay.
Well, and also episode 1 is, if you go to the HBO YouTube channel, they put the entire episode 1 on YouTube for free.
Okay.
So you can watch episode 1. I'll tell you right now, Jonathan Abrams rubs me the wrong way already, episode 1. But
Okay.
Go ahead with Antonio Brown.
So the reason why I say Antonio Brown, I think that some of the antics that he's pulling already, I think it's because he knows he's on Hard Knocks. I mean, a part of me thinks that he's like, hey, I'll give these people a show. They want a show. They like Hard Knocks. I'll give them a show. Let's help these ratings. But I also think, okay, so this cryogenic thing that happened with his feet.
Yeah, he's got cold feet.
It's crazy. It's a crazy story. Like,
is it crazier than the helmet thing?
No. No. But he said, I can't wait to be getting back out on the field with, like with my brothers, stuff like that, whatever it was, teammates. And, okay, he's not sitting out. That was dumb.
Yeah.
It's, dude, why are you going to die on, a molehill over something like that? So not only were those two things crazy,
yeah,
but then it's, certainly he's not getting any younger. He's still, I think, very talented. And I know that other people would be like, well, Julio Jones is 30. Well, Julio Jones has Matt Ryan in a Falcons offense that does nothing but throw the football. Antonio Brown's in a situation, right when he got traded to Oakland. When he got traded to Buffalo, I thought, wow, you're really screwed. When he got traded to Oakland, I thought, you're still screwed, not as badly. Derek Carr has not been himself since his injury a couple of years back. He hasn't been the same Derek Carr. Also, Oakland, they have not been the team that throws the ball deep down the field multiple times a game. That's what Antonio Brown thrived on in Pittsburgh. Big Ben was slinging that thing down the field all the time. And if it wasn't Juju, obviously it was Antonio Brown, and he had multiple 10-plus touchdown seasons to show for it. Antonio Brown does not have even close to 10 touchdowns this season. There's no way.
You don't think he'll get 10 touchdowns this year?
No freaking way.
How? Just because you think that
Oakland's offense is not that good.
So, okay, here's
and Derek
the thing.
Carr is not the quarterback that other people want him to be.
Okay, well, I'm going to get into Derek Carr because I have him lined up for one of the next things that we're going to talk about. But the thing I will say about Oakland is this kind of comes into the same situation of what you were saying about Tampa Bay is exactly what you think of Oakland. Is Oakland going to have a lot of wins this year? No, probably at most they have 6. If they go 6-10, run a parade because that's way more than everyone else is having them get. Like I predicted them to get 2 wins this season. I'm kind of low on the Raiders this year, but like you look at last year and the reason why that Derek Carr didn't have the numbers that we wanted him to is these are the list of receiving yards from most to not most. So most to least. Jared Cook, Jordy Nelson, only played injured Jordy Nelson. Jalen Richard, Seth Roberts, Amari Cooper for only 6 games. Martavius Bryant for 8 games. Marcel Aitman, 7 games. Brandon LaFell, Doug Martin, Marshawn Lynch, Darren Walker. How many of those guys, except for Amari Cooper, who was only there 6 games, would you say that's my guy? Jared Cook, maybe.
Yeah,
that's why he led the team.
Jared Cook was his guy, but let me tell you, you made the whole point for me. They had Amari Cooper. Did you see what he did in Dallas?
Well, they traded him.
He had 2 games in Dallas where he went, over 200 yards and 2 touchdowns? I mean, crazy numbers, stats.
But they knew they weren't going to re-sign him. That was the thing.
But it does not matter.
They wanted that draft pick.
I'm not going to re-sign you, so I'm not throwing to you anymore, Amari. That's not how it goes, Ricky. You and I both know that. They had a star wide receiver in Amari Cooper. They couldn't do squat diddly with him last year.
In 6 games, he had 31 targets.
22 receptions for 280 yards and a TD. I think Dak Prescott had that for him in 1 game. I mean, that is ridiculous. So you're going to tell me that you bring in Antonio Brown and all of a sudden things are going to be saved and he's going to have outstanding numbers? No, you're not fooling me.
Amari Cooper's not Antonio Brown, though. Like, that's the thing. Like, but Amari Cooper
But the fact that Amari Cooper was not above most of the names on this list, and I understand the amount of time that he was there, but the fact that he only had 1 touchdown, he didn't even have 300 yards.
The thing that I'm looking at is, and of course, I'm trying to think back, and Raider fans help me, because there might have been situations where he didn't play or anything, but the big thing that attributed to it is like week 1 against the Rams. He only had 3 targets for 1 reception. Then the next week, he had 10 targets on 10 receptions. Then against Miami, week 3, 5 targets, 2 receptions. Then against Cleveland, 11 targets, 8 receptions. Then against the Chargers, 1 target, 1 catch. And against Seattle, 1 target, no catches. So it's like the game against the Rams, the game against Miami, the Chargers, and then Seattle, that's why his targets were down. It was because in those games, and I'm trying to think back if he tweaked something in games
he was
remember.
Concussed at Seattle.
Okay.
That was it.
Okay.
That was it.
Because, like, other than that, it's like, I almost want to say the statement, and I'm going to say it, but I'm not going to mean it, because I don't want to disrespect Amari Cooper like that. But I almost want to say with conviction that Amari Cooper can't even hold Antonio Brown's jockstrap. That's how different they are in fantasy to me. And Oakland, are they going to be a great team? No. But I that is something where, and that's the great thing about this, we can disagree on it. I think you're being way too low. Like, you're being way too low on Antonio Bryant. If he plays, he's going to have a great season. The question is, will all the hoopla get in the way? Because the one thing that I heard today is, and this was from The Herd, had Greg Jennings on either earlier this week or last week. I don't know. I just watched a random YouTube video. And he said he's got a friend of his that is friends with Mike Tomlin. And his friend said that Mike Tomlin was like, yeah, everything that you're hearing right now with Antonio Brown, we're dealing with the same thing. He's like, you might have heard about it week 14, but we were dealing with it since week 1. So it's like, when it comes to Antonio Brown,
he's a nut.
This is what you're going to deal with. And it's kind of like you look back and go, how much of this did the Steelers hide very well to where we found out about it late in the season, but they were probably dealing with it since the offseason or since training camp.
No, totally. I mean,
John Gruden is a totally different coach to where he's not, I don't think he's the same as the Mike Tomlin, where, yes, there's some things that you might want to keep in-house, but, like, he's a guy that, like, he'll put you on blast. Like, there's a clip, and they did this with Ronald Ollie, who was from Last Chance U, that was on the Raiders. When they showed him getting cut in the first episode, they preceded it by John Gruden on the practice field going, hey, you know what? These guys that don't give a fuck, get them out of here. Let's make some cuts. Like, that's the kind of guy John Gruden is. It's like, fuck it, we're making cuts today. Didn't anticipate it, but we're going to make cuts.
That's him. That's him to a T. I just don't think with the entire surrounding of what the Oakland, I almost said the Oakland A's. What the hell is wrong with me? The Oakland Raiders are.
I mean, same stadium, right?
Yes, it's not incorrect.
The Coliseum.
But he's not playing with Ben Roethlisberger anymore. He doesn't have a juju on the other side of the field to, take away those double teams and stuff like that. The Raiders are not anywhere near as good as the Pittsburgh Steelers are. And the Pittsburgh Steelers lost Antonio Brown. Everyone's like, nah, they're going to suck. But that's incorrect, I think. And the Oakland Raiders...
Reality is going to hit the Steelers a little bit this year.
But I also think reality of this new team is going to hit Antonio Brown when, he's a star because of his name and his athletic ability, as good as he is. But somebody's got to get you the football. And Derek Carr, as much as I want to say he's a solid quarterback, he's been up and down in his last couple of seasons. I just don't think that Antonio Brown's going to have... Will he have over 1,000 yards? Yeah, he'll probably have over 1,000 yards. He's not having 10 touchdowns.
Quick question. This doesn't need to go into a long discussion. I just want to ask your thought because Mike Clay of ESPN thinks this is true. Under their busts on their article, guess who he put? And I want you to give just a very short, maybe 1 to 2 sentences. I know it's going to be longer than that, but you get my point. Patrick Mahomes. Are people crazy if they put him as a bust this year just because of the fact, I don't even need to read it. I know what he's going to say. Since he's not going to have an MVP-like season and he's going to be, numbers might be a little down from last year if they even are people crazy to think Mahomes is going to be a bust because he's not going to have the video game-like season potentially that he had last season?
If you put Patrick Mahomes on your bust list because he doesn't throw for 42 touchdowns this year and he only throws for 36, you're a freaking moron. That's not a bust. That's still going to win you a championship. So they should probably either figure out a different category to put him in. Didn't throw for 40 this year, threw for only 37 category. It's a moronic thing to do.
Okay. I just want to get your opinion because I know you're a Chiefs fan also.
Yes. So, moving along, after we do bus, let's go to another B word. Let's go to breakouts.
Okay.
Let's go to some breakout candidates this season.
I'd love to start here. I'm glad you picked breakouts.
Yes.
Derek Carr. I'm glad you did it.
I knew you were going to say that.
You went from AB, I'm going to Derek Carr. And it's like, if Antonio Brown plays, they're going to have Antonio Brown and Williams out there and Jared Cook, who last year we know had really good, 800 yards for a tight end isn't bad. That's why I'm saying
it's not
really good. But you got Antonio Brown, Tyrell Williams, Hunter Renfrow, who I can't wait to see how he does. He's their third right now. You've got Jared Cook out there. I think this is a team that just by having AB out there, I'm not with you. You think obviously AB is going to have a down year, which kind of taints your opinion. I think that this is going to be like Derek Carr is going to be somebody where people go, damn, why the hell didn't I draft him? Where I could almost see him having numbers closer to what he had. Well, the yards, he might have the same this year. So we'll say around, I'll still say around his second season in the league. So between 3,800 to 4,000 yards. But the touchdowns is where I'm looking at, where with having Williams, with having Antonio Brown out there, he's not just going to have 19 touchdowns this year. I would be shocked if he didn't have the touchdown numbers that we saw in 15 and 16, where he's in that 28 to 32 touchdown range just by adding AB onto the field because of the type of explosiveness that AB brings when healthy. Because he's got cold feet.
So 2015, Derek Carr was really good. 2016, Derek Carr was still really good. 32 touchdowns, 28 touchdowns, respectively. That's awesome. And then in 2016, he only threw 6 interceptions. That's outstanding. And those are really good fantasy numbers. Then he takes... Go ahead.
The thing I just want to throw out there, too, is in both of those years, 15 and 16, the first year, it was... Oh, fuck. I even forgot the names. Amari Cooper and what was it? Was it Seth Roberts? He basically had one at 1,000, one at 900 yards. And then in 2016, that was the year he had both Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree both had 1,000 yards. I think if this season goes like pie in the sky for Oakland, AB will have over 1,000. It's how many yards does Williams have? So he's going to be an 800, 900, even 1,000-yard guy also. That's going to be the linchpin in this.
You see, and I don't have the confidence that Tyrell Williams can be that guy. He didn't really pan out with San Diego. He never was what they needed him to be. I don't know if he'll do any better over in Oakland. You look at 2017 for Derek Carr, dropped significantly by yardage. In 2015-16, 39.87, 39.37, then 34.96. 34.96. 22 touchdowns, that's it. Drops off by 6 from the year before, 10 the year before that. And then this past year, over 4,000 yards, but only 19 TDs. That's it. I mean, he
didn't have no weapons to throw to.
What are you talking about? He had Amari Cooper, he had Amari Cooper, I know
the Amari Cooper situation was unique.
That I know that you can't. You think that he can't even hold Antonio Brown's jockstrap. I don't know why you want to do that, anyways. But I think it's crazy to me that he had Amari Cooper. So you're gonna say, well, he has Antonio Brown, but what's the big difference? I understand that Amari Cooper wasn't having, 12, 13, 14 touchdown seasons. I get that. But Derek Carr wasn't the guy to do that for him.
I look at that whole Amari Cooper situation, and it's like he was never in the future for that offense to where I definitely don't put that on Derek Carr. I put it more on obviously John Gruden coming in, and they obviously wanted to. Their main goals were, we're going to negotiate with Khalil Mack. Okay, he wants too much, and go ahead and trade him. But then also there's the situation of, hey, you know what? We're also going to look to trade Amari Cooper also. And I know we touched it in the Antonio Brown situation, but I'm even trying to look at here like the recaps for those games to see what was going on. Because the weird thing is, and thinking back that far, is like, why wasn't he getting the touches that he needs to? And the only thing that I could put my kind of arm around is that they knew, hey, we're trying to get rid of him. And how do we get rid of him? We keep him healthy. And that's probably wrong, but it's one of those things where I look at it and I go, okay, he didn't throw to Amari Cooper. It's not like he's not going to throw to AB and not going to throw to Tyrell Williams this year. Like, I don't think either one of those two guys, if they have a first, what would that be? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. If either one of those two guys have a first 6 games like Amari Cooper, I'd be shocked. Like, I would be shocked if either Williams or Brown had a dismal first 6 games like Cooper had last year.
So then let me try and bring this out from what would you would be thinking in your mind.
Yeah.
Is that if Derek Carr wasn't throwing to Amari Cooper, it's either 1, they don't have the chemistry, 2, he's not open. Or
he could be double teamed. Teams could say, fuck it, we're going to double team him, throw to someone else.
So he's not open.
Yeah.
I'm highly doubting it's chemistry because they had worked together, been on the same team for a number of years.
1,000-yard seasons before that.
Yeah, so I don't think it's chemistry. So you're going to tell me in your mind and how you've been putting it that Antonio Brown is so much better than Amari Cooper. You think Antonio Brown's going to be wide open?
I mean, I think that Antonio Brown has better moves than Amari Cooper because he's a better wide receiver than Amari Cooper, and that's no slight at Amari Cooper. Just AB is not, if not 1, he's 2, and if not 2, he's 3. He's a top 5 wide receiver where Amari Cooper's not top 5 in my
Where's
mind.
Antonio Brown going? Is he going as a top 5 receiver right now? I don't think he is.
I would find it hard. And that's the top 5 wide receivers are interesting to me. Right now, ESPN on the projections has him
not top 3.
Has him at 8. And for me, in my draft order, how my wide receiver big boards would go is number 1 is DeAndre Hopkins. Dave and I had a little bit of an argument about that because my basic thing is DeAndre Hopkins didn't drop a fucking ball last year.
Hopkins has the best hands in the league. There's no argument.
He's the best wide receiver. Michael Thomas, I know Jake, one of our patrons, but he's a Saints fan, so he's biased, wants to put Michael Thomas up there. Maybe I'm just being ignorant when it comes to that. I would say Julio, AB, I think is top 5. In my mind, it's DeAndre Hopkins at 1, Julio and AB 2 and 3, whichever one you're going to take them, whichever one you like better. Then Michael Thomas at 4. And then at 5, it's take your pick of who you like. Do you like OBJ with Cleveland? Do you like a Devonta Adams in Green Bay? Do you like Tyreek Hill in KC? Do you like Juju in the Steelers? That's what I would put at 5.
I guess I don't see it. If anything, the values for maybe a guy like Tyrell Williams go up only because if Antonio Brown is getting double teamed, then someone else has got to be open. So,
I just think
not all that high on Tyrell Williams, like I said, but he might have a little bit more value just because of a potential scenario of Antonio Brown being double covered.
And the thing that's interesting about him that I looked at is the year he had 1,000 yards with the Chargers was the year Keenan Allen only played 1 game. When Keenan Allen came back the next year,
he went down.
And when
time.
they got Hunter Henry as well, and Travis Benjamin was having a good year, he went from 1,000 yards to 728. And that's with Keenan Allen playing 16 games that next season. So it'll be that's what I'm saying. Tyrell Williams is the linchpin, but with both of them out there and Jared Cook coming back, there's the potential for Derek Carr to have a breakout season this year.
All right. So my first breakout, how about David Montgomery from the Chicago Bears?
Okay.
And I know that a lot of people may be like, Brandon, a breakout in his first season? Yes. So I understand the Bears
it's allowed. You can do that.
May have a crowded backfield with David Montgomery, Tariq Cohen, and Mike Davis. Well, Mike Davis ain't going to be the guy. Tariq Cohen is outstanding, but he's outstanding in the role that he plays. David Montgomery is going to end up being the guy for the Chicago Bears. He just is. He can do it all. He breaks tackles. The run that he had the other night in last week in the Bears' first preseason game against Carolina, it was
talking preseason, Brandon.
It was a nasty
preseason?
run that he took all the way to the house for a touchdown
against those third and fourth stringers.
Hey, it's the NFL. It's a different beast. It's not college anymore, and he's still doing it. He was the best in college at breaking tackles, I'll say.
I don't know. I think I'd take Alabama over third string NFL players.
And then hard to disagree with you on that one, but also he's a guy who can come out of the backfield and catch passes too. A lot of people like what they see and think that he could be a true 3-down back. That's a huge thing to hear because those running backs are few and far between anymore these days. David Montgomery is a guy who I think it may not be week 1 through 3, but eventually the Chicago Bears are going to see what he's doing and say, Matt Nagy's going to go, Mike Davis, you're going to get some carries a little bit sometimes. Tariq Cohen, you're going to still play the Tariq Cohen role. David Montgomery, you're going to be our starting running back.
See, the Bear running back situation, it doesn't, I'm not scared because I think that each one of these guys is going to eat. The only thing that worries me about it is I feel like it's going to be a true running back by committee kind of thing, where, yet again, that video I watched with Greg Jennings and Colin Cowherd on his show, The Herd, he kind of talked, I mentioned it like nobody knows what The Herd is. You guys know what The Herd is.
What kind of herd?
What he kind of, the Thundering Herd from Marshall. We are Marshall. But they were kind of talking when it was the Melvin Gordon discussion, how more teams are realizing that how you win in this league is you don't need that Adrian Peterson type of back, the carry it all 4 downs, that Barry Sanders to be the guy all 4 downs and bruise it up the middle. It's like, if you can't catch the ball, we don't want you anymore. And also there's teams like, you look at the Patriots each year, it's like, who's the running back? Like the one week I was like, everyone's saying pick up Rex Burkhead because he's going to have a break. He's going to be the guy to break out this week. And he literally had nothing. And I got pissed because a different running back for them broke out.
I remember that.
Yeah, I was furious. But I feel like that's what the Bears are going to be this year. Running back by committee. There's a reason why they're marketing them with the Run DMC shirts, because each one of those are going to get their chances to eat, to get fed the ball. And each one of them can catch the ball out of the backfield, where I don't think David Montgomery is going to not get the chances. I just don't know if it's going to be what you're saying, where it's like, oh, he's the starter and he's the one. I think it's going to be all 3 of them kind of working together as a 3-headed monster. And because of that, there may be times where, all right, David Montgomery got some touchdowns here, but okay, in this game, it was Tyreek Cohen that really went off in this one, to where it might be hard week in, week out to figure out which Bear running back is going to be the one that's going to blow off in that game.
If you're the Chicago Bears, you do not go get a guy like David Montgomery if you don't believe you're going to be using him a whole heck of a lot. If you don't believe you're not going to be making him a premier player on your team. You don't draft a guy like that to just be like, we'll put you in, every other set of downs. That ain't going to happen. Well, and if that's what happens, the Chicago Bears better look in the mirror and figure it out. But I just think that Tariq Cohen plays such a special role in the offense. He doesn't need to be the starter. He won't be the starter because his body, you've seen it, it can't take a starter role.
It's all going to depend on also what kind of defense they're going up against. Like, I think the Bear running back situation, treat it like that Patriot running back situation where it's like, all right, is James White going to be the one getting the points today? Is it going to be Rex Burkhead? Who should I take from this backfield? It might be, and it might not be completely like carbon copy of that, because I don't think it's going to be where it's like, fuck it, I'm not going to deal with a Bear running back because I don't know if he's like, they're going to get fed. It's just like I said, like David Montgomery, Tyreek Cohen, and then Tariq Cohen. Who am I missing? I'm missing the M.
Mike Davis.
Each one of those, it's going to be tricky to see how the Bears split it up, because I feel like each one is going to get even amount of touches. Like, not one person is going to be far out. It might be like, oh, this guy had a few more touches this season, but it's not going to be one where it's like, wow, this one guy had way few touches compared to the other 2.
We'll see how it goes, but I have high hopes for David Montgomery. I think that with all the skill sets that he has, his ability, his athleticism, and I'll go back to even when we talked, this was now a while back, on the Primetime podcast, and talked about him being, at least I did, a lesser version, because I'm not saying he is anywhere near, so I don't want people to lose their minds over it, but a little lesser version of Saquon Barkley. the way that he can grind and churn those legs and, the thick thighs, very muscular, everything like that. Similar to Saquon. Similarities to it. And you would never put Saquon in a three-headed, machine. And I understand he's not. But there's just guys with certain talents. It's hard to keep them off the field.
And that's the reason why he's not Saquon, is because you can't just be like, he's the guy, in my mind. If he was like,
you could, though.
If he was like,
you could.
You could, but you, yet again, wouldn't have a good time. I think it's going to be fine with them doing their thing, three-headed monster. No, because I think that David Montgomery would be destroyed if he was the main back.
Disagree. Could not disagree more.
But
who is your next breakout?
I think it's going to work out best having them be the three-headed monster. My only other one, I didn't know if I was going to put him as a sleeper or as a breakout, and I guess I'll put him as my last breakout because I don't have many breakout players. Derek Carr was the big one for me. DJ Moore with the Carolina Panthers. Now, there's three linchpins that will determine this.
A lot of pins.
Yeah. Number one, the biggest of linchpins, Cam Newton.
Of course.
What are we going to see from him this year?
Is he going to be on the field?
Number two, the second, but we'll talk about being on the field. The second linchpin that's not as big as Cam Newton, but still big, is Greg Olsen going to be on the field? How much is Greg Olsen on the field? That's a big linchpin too. The third one is what do we expect, and more importantly, what do we get from Chris Hogan this year? I think that all three of these things, if they go in the right favor, obviously Christian McCaffrey is the main get from Carolina in fantasy. Like, I feel this year, Christian McCaffrey on the running back side, maybe also because Todd Gurley is not going to be drafted high, because Ezekiel Elliott's not going to be drafted high, because Melvin Gordon's not going to be drafted high. I kind of have a feeling in my running back rankings that if we did rankings for running backs, that I would put Saquon 1, Christian McCaffrey at number 2. Either him or Kamara.
That makes
one
of
the
sense.
two. But like I look at it, and DJ Moore didn't have a bad season last year, but I think we expected more out of him as a rookie. And if Hogan can come in, take some pressure off that way, where it's like, hey, we've got another target out here that we can throw to. Greg Olsen too, because Greg Olsen's a big reliable target that it's like, okay, we can't just go all over DJ Moore because we got to give some respect to Greg Olsen as well. And then the big one is, what do you expect from Cam Newton? And can Cam Newton do enough? Because there are people this year that are not high on Cam Newton coming into this year. Can he do enough to elevate DJ Moore? Because obviously DJ Moore's not going to do well if the quarterback ain't getting them the ball.
No, it's very true. And I really look at Carolina this year, and I think, okay, what weapons do you guys have now on offense? We know that there's no Steve Smith. There's no Devin Funchess. There's you have Cam Newton. Is he healthy? Is he ready to be on the field? Greg Olsen, healthy, ready to be on the field? And then it's question marks. DJ Moore, is he going to take that next step? You hope he does. Chris Hogan, he had some good games for the New England Patriots. Is he going to be able to put those things together and have consistently good games for the Panthers?
And the big thing I look at is like just looking at ESPN and like them showing last year's stats and then their projections for this year when it comes to DJ Moore. So they have him going from 82 targets to 110 targets, 55 receptions to 72 receptions, from 788 yards to 951 yards. This is the big one, though, for me. And if this is right at the end of the year, then DJ Moore will not be a breakout player. He will only be a breakout player in my mind if this number is higher than what they're projecting for him. They have him going from only 2 touchdowns to 4 touchdowns. If he has only 4 touchdowns at the end of the year, he's not breaking out. Like, in order for DJ Moore to break out, having 951 yards is fine. Like, oh, that's almost close to 1,000 yards. But for him to break out this year, he needs to be the clear number one for Carolina and the clear scoring option for Carolina. Yeah. Like, he needs to, like, I almost want to go crazy and say he needs to have like 10 touchdowns because, like, I think of a guy.
Not going to happen.
And I'm not saying it will. I'm saying I almost want to say that because I think of a guy who's going to be in my sleepers, who I'll spoil now and talk about then, Anthony Miller. Anthony Miller last year quietly had 7 touchdowns. Like, he said he was going to have 8, and we all laughed at him, and then he had 7. So it was like, if Anthony Miller, who was not a first-round pick, could get 7 touchdowns, what's going on with you, DJ? Why only the 2 or 4? And I get it's the entire team, and of course, you've got all, like, these weapons will help because they'll take pressure off of you, but at the same time, those touchdowns might go to Greg Olsen, might go to Chris Hogan, and how many of those are going to go to DJ Moore? Some of them even go to Christian McCaffrey, too.
Yeah, no, that's very true. That's very true. I will go with my final breakout, but I'm not going to go into too much detail because we've already talked about it a little bit. Chris Godwin, wide receiver from Tampa Bay. I
talked about him when I said quarterbacks.
Yep. I think that Chris Godwin can, has an opportunity. I think Chris Godwin has an opportunity at 10 touchdowns this year. I really do, because I think that Jameis will be throwing the ball early and often. He will be told to throw the football. The running game for Tampa Bay, we'll see how it goes, only because I don't know how much they'll be used because he'll be throwing it a lot. Chris Godwin, I think, finally takes that leap, and I think he becomes that solid number 2 option in Tampa Bay. So Chris Godwin, my final breakout.
Okay.
And then our final category is sleeper. So, Ricky, I'll throw it to you first for sleepers that you're looking for in the upcoming fantasy football season.
Yeah, I guess I got to go with the guy that I already said was going to be a sleeper, and that's Anthony Miller. Like, he is a guy that I will be looking for either late in my draft, middle to late in my drafts, and especially if he is not kept by somebody in our dynasty, he is someone that I may look at in our draft, because last year as a rookie, I believe he was a 3rd rounder, if I am not mistaken, had 54 targets, 33 receptions, 423 yards, 7 touchdowns. And like I say, quietly 7 touchdowns, because no one outside of Chicago was really talking about Anthony Miller. When you're talking about the Bears, you were talking about the defense, you're talking about Mitch Trubisky, you were talking about Matt Nagy. Like, those were the main talking points. And I almost feel like, yet again, like Trey Burton to me is not a guy that, is he a good tight end? Yes. Doesn't set the world on fire. He's not a Travis Kelce. He's not a Zach Ertz, obviously. Allen Robinson is good. Taylor Gabriel is good. But, I mean, Taylor Gabriel to me doesn't set the world on fire. Allen Robinson can. It's just, what are you going to get? And I feel like most teams this year, having a year under his belt, year in the NFL under his belt, another offseason to kind of work, I feel like we could really see, like, Anthony Miller. I almost wanted to put him as a breakout, but I put him as a sleeper because, to me, there's more I feel like DJ Moore has much better of an opportunity to break out than Anthony Miller does, because DJ Moore is going to be the number 1 in Carolina. Anthony Miller is going to be the number 3 in Chicago. Like, their roles are completely different. So, but though he's a 3, teams might say, hey, we're going to look to match up with Robinson. We're going to try to stop Gabriel. And there could be options where Mitch goes, oh, Anthony's open, and just hit him. And with his speed, he could make stuff work, break some tackles, get some more touchdowns this year.
No, I agree. And I think that Matt Nagy's really happy with where Mitch Trubisky is at this point compared to where he was last year. So obviously strides made. And I think Mitch is going to be able to work the ball down the field a little bit more this year and even better and read those defenses better, which is going to lead
Matt
to
Nagy
good
loves
things.
those seam throws.
Yeah, and it's going to lead to really good things for Anthony Miller. So I completely agree with you. I think that we could really see some good things from him and definitely a good sleeper candidate with him.
I could just see it right now. Like, he just breaks down the sideline, like step gets around the guy, and then Mitch just throws it up
or
there,
even middle of the field.
Even that, because just Matt Nagy loves to have those. It's kind of like what Greg Jennings has said before. It's like, oh, why'd you play wide receiver? He's like, because I realized going from running back to wide receiver, it's easy to make a guy miss and then you're open.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what Anthony Miller could do this year.
Absolutely. I'm excited for that. I'm excited for that Bears offense in general. I think it's going to be another good one this season.
You'd be a terrible fan if you were like, no, I'm not excited for the offense at all.
You would just be an awful football fan in general. Not just a Bear fan, but an awful football fan in general. So my first sleeper is Christian Kirk from Arizona, wide receiver. And the reason I say that is because he's just about the only wide receiver they have.
Yeah, they got that's putting some disrespect on Andy Isabella, man. Rookie coming out of where did he come out of? UMass, I think. Yeah, UMass.
Whatever.
The guy they traded Josh Rosen to get.
They traded Josh Rosen because he sucks.
And then they got Andy Isabella with that pick that the Dolphins gave him.
So I think that I like Christian Kirk. I had him on my dynasty team last season. He was a little frustrating because he had Josh Rosen throwing to him.
And he got injured.
But there were a number of games where he showed flashes of, wow, this guy can be good. This guy can get down the field. He can be a really good deep threat and just wide receiver to throw to on this team. And now that you have a quarterback that can move the ball down the field and make
an offense that probably fits him
and make plays with his legs, Christian Kirk's going to be your go-to guy.
Yeah.
I just think that Christian Kirk, another year, come off the injury. First, are you healthy? I believe he is. And now it's develop that chemistry. And I think he can.
I want to ask you this, and this plays into Christian Kirk in a way. What do you expect from Larry Fitzgerald this year? Because there's a lot of lists that I'm seeing, and a lot of it is I'll be honest, lazy writing, where it's like, oh, he's old, bust. Do you think that there's a possibility that Christian Kirk has a sleeper-like season, has a better year than many think, because Larry Fitzgerald has a bust-like season where it's like, wow, I didn't expect Larry Fitzgerald to have that bad of a year. Like, not saying that Larry Fitzgerald is going to fall off the face of the earth, but where Larry Fitzgerald might not hit the expectations that we set up for him because he's Larry Fitzgerald.
So Larry Fitzgerald is a really good wide receiver. We all know it. And just a stud for coming back each and every season. He's going to do so many good things for this offense this year. He's a veteran presence that knows his stuff, that can really guide these young guys along, and they need him. Arizona needs him to be there right now. And Larry Fitz is not going to be the Larry Fitz of 5 years ago. He's just not. But he's going to be what they need right now for Kyler Murray. I think Larry Fitzgerald is going to have a good season because why? He's going to be Kyler Murray's safety valve. That's going to be his guy, which if that happens and he goes to Larry Fitzgerald, that's going to open up things more down the field for a guy like Christian Kirk.
Numbers-wise, what's your expectations for Fitzgerald? Because last year, 69 receptions, nice. 734 yards, 6 touchdowns last year. In an off year, first time in the last 3 seasons before last year, he was an 1,000-yard receiver.
I was just going to say, I think that with the addition of Kyler Murray, I think that he goes to about 800 yards. I know it's not a huge jump, but 800 yards, 850, and I think he still will be around the 5 to 7 touchdown range.
He's been consistent. The last 3 years, 666 with touchdowns. So, I mean, he went from 9 to 6, then has stayed at 6, and then was at 6 for the last 3 years. That's the big thing for me, where when it comes to these wide receivers, like I'm confident in Kyler Murray, and he could even be in the sleeper category also. It's just those wide receivers where what are we going to get from Fitzgerald? How is Christian Kirk going to come into the second year? Are we going to see anything from Kevin White? Because he's kind of on the redemption tour now in Arizona after Chicago didn't work.
You'll probably see him leave the field with an injury.
And then you've got Andy Isabella, who they drafted this year. So, I mean, it's a lot of hope for Arizona. It's just, will we see the product benefit fantasy owners this year? And that's why Arizona, except for Kyler Murray, is kind of a gamble for me.
Sure.
I'll say Kyler Murray and David Johnson. Besides those two, everyone else is a gamble.
Sure. Here's your next sleeper.
I will tell you this. I'm going to let you guess who it is. He's a quarterback entering his second year in the league.
Not Baker.
Not Baker.
Josh Allen.
Josh Allen. And the reason why I say that is many people say, Ricky, you're crazy. Josh Allen had 12 interceptions, 10 touchdowns. Yeah, he had 2,000 yards in 12 games.
You're picking him because he smoked the Vikings.
No, not because of that. Because of, look at his wide receivers. Like, he's got, and I know that people are going to be like, Ricky, he's got fucking Cole Beasley. Like, Cole Beasley is not that. But look at what Cole Beasley was able to do for Dak. Like, I feel like the reason why this is a sleeper is because it's kind of like that high roller situation. Am I going to hit the roll I need? Probably not. Papa needs a new pair of shoes, but it might roll up snake eyes. Like, you're taking a roll of the dice when it comes to Josh Allen. But, like, John Brown, if he can be a good deep threat, perfect marriage for him and Josh Allen. Because Josh Allen can bomb those 70-yarders. And if John Brown can just run to it quick enough, he'll make the catch. Then you also have Zay Jones. Obviously, they drafted him a couple years ago. Can he be what we've all expected him to be? But the addition to Cole Beasley, where Cole Beasley was a safety blanket for Dak Prescott. Like, he was to Dak Prescott what Jason Witten was to Tony Romo. Like, Cole Beasley was the guy, just throw him over the middle of the field, Dak will hit him, and then Cole takes it with his legs. Where it's like, wow, Dak got a 50-yard touchdown. No, Cole Beasley got a 50-yard touchdown. Dak only threw it 10 yards. That's the kind of stuff you're dealing with. And I feel like with the good mix of them, plus running back situation, you bring in, they draft Devin Singletary. It'll be interesting to see what he does as a rookie. But with the LaShawn McCoy usually being injured, you bring in Frank Gore, you bring in TJ Yeldon. No guys that are like, these guys aren't going to knock the socks off the world. But if they can provide a reliable run game, and Beasley and John Brown can add something to this wide receiver core, this is a player in Josh Allen that could really see a big step in the right direction this year, to where we're looking at him at the end of the year as a sleeper for fantasy football. Like, wow, I slept on him and I should have drafted him, or I should have picked him up week 1, week 2.
No, I think you're right. I will say that it's really going to be interesting, the strides that he makes, because he has one of the best arms in the game as a second year.
Can sling it.
Yes, as a second-year quarterback.
Got to bring those interceptions down.
He does.
At the same time, somebody who slings it like that, you're going to get picked off a couple times. Like, it's just natural.
Yeah, you might.
I mean, look at Brett Favre's interception numbers.
So I think that you know, as I'm trying to do some things here and everything's closing out for me, he does have some low-key, talented wide receivers on his team that he can throw to that can get it done. You know, and guys that I think for the most part stay healthy.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Cole Beasley for the most part has been pretty healthy throughout his career. He's a guy who's very reliable. Like you said, John Brown, great deep threat opportunity. Who else they got?
They've got, here, let me pull it up. They've got John Brown, Zay Jones, and Cole Beasley are going to be their main three.
Zay Jones, if Zay Jones could step out of the shadows for a minute and stay healthy, gosh, he's a good target to throw to.
And I mean, other than that, it's like Andre Roberts, Ray McLeod. That's just a cool name to say.
Ray McLeod coming from Clemson, right?
Robert Foster, David Stills, Cam Phillips. Like, mainly your three
It
guys.
gets significantly crappy, but
Yeah. Your three guys. And even like tight end, it's like Dawson Knox, who's a rookie, Tyler Croft, Lee Smith. It's like, even tight end wise, it's like, all right, just talk about those first three wide receivers.
They're trying.
And that's why, to me, it's like, is Buffalo going to win a lot of games this year? Probably not. But with the three wide receivers, Josh Allen could have a better statistical year, if I could say that word right, year than he had last year. And you said Ray McLeod was Clemson?
Yeah. Wasn't he?
He was Clemson. You're right.
I thought so.
Ray McLeod. I just like that name.
It's a very fun name to say. My final. I don't know. Do you have any others?
That was my last one.
So
you're the one to end it, big boy.
My final one. And a lot of people probably have him on their bust list.
Okay.
But I'm gonna put him on my sleeper.
Okay.
And that is going to be Devonta Freeman. Ooh. And the reason I say that is because if we look back to a couple of years ago, where Devonta Freeman was kind of the guy for the Atlanta Falcons, and he was not injured, he was getting a lot of time. How about we go back to 15-16, where he had over 1,000 yards and 11 touchdowns both seasons. Those were the seasons that people wanted Devonta Freeman. They were taking him early. The last couple of years have not been anything to write home about. In 17, he had 865 yards and 7 touchdowns. Not bad there through the air. Caught 36 passes, over 300 yards and a TD. And then, of course, last year, only 2 games, 14 carries, 68 yards, because his season was ended way early due to an injury. Of course, and I'll pull the Ricky Widmer, the linchpin here is, can he stay healthy? If he stays healthy, can be on the field for 15, 16 games this year, he's going to be a 1,000-yard rusher, 10 touchdowns. And in an Atlanta offense that's explosive.
Well, here's what
and sorry to cut you off, but there's no Tevin Coleman. Well, Tevin Coleman's out in San Francisco.
That's what I was going to say. I'm going to take your Devonta Freeman, and I'll raise you a Tevin Coleman. Because I think he could be a sleeper with the 49ers.
Sure, yeah, me too.
The only thing standing in Devonta Freeman's way is his health. Yeah. And that's a big thing where a lot of the sleepers that I'm thinking, like Tevin Coleman could be one. I think Will Fuller's a sleeper this year because I think that's more of a bounce back situation because I think injured last year is going to come back, have a nice year next to DeAndre Hopkins. And obviously Devonta Freeman fit in that category too. Injured last year. Can he stay healthy this year? And obviously if he's out there, I think he does better. And with him out there, I think the Falcons win more games. And maybe they're a playoff team like they were in my predictions if he's there all 16 games.
No, I agree. I mean, I think that they have to be. I mean, you look at a guy who in 15-16, now, Ricky, I'm just looking at the stats here. Is there any way that you could look up where you remember Atlanta in 15-16? What was their record and where did they go? Were they Super Bowl 16?
I think so. Here,
or 15?
Let me pull it up. Falcons seasons. You want to know the 2015 year?
15 and 16, yes.
So 2015 they were 8-8. Then 2016 that was the Super Bowl year.
Okay.
So the 2016 season, which would have been the 2017 playoffs.
Okay. So in 2016, that's when he carried the ball 227 times, 1,079 yards, 11 TDs on the ground, 54 receptions for 462 yards, 2 TDs.
And then the next year they went 10-6 and lost in the divisional round to the eventual Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles.
So this is a guy who's important to not just fantasy because he can put up really good numbers when he's in, but the Falcons in general. I mean, they need him big time.
Yeah.
So I say Devonta Freeman. I think that he's still got a ton in the tank. This is a guy who is now going to be 27, only 27. He should, if healthy.
Devonta
26, 27. Gosh, if he's 26.
27.
Holy crap.
He'll turn 28 on March 15th. So after the season, he'll turn 28.
Okay. So if he's healthy, he's got another at least 3 more good years.
And apparently 2 days ago, there's articles out here that Devonta Freeman healthy and impressing the Falcons.
So you just hope a guy like that is going to stay healthy, because if he can, that's somebody you can go get and get right away, and maybe take him above people who are worried that he may not stay healthy. It's that risk reward. Sometimes you got to take some risks.
Yep. No, you do. You do. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Kyler Murray, obviously a sleeper for the rookie side. But we hit a lot. We hit a lot in this podcast.
Oh, yeah. We definitely did. We definitely did. This was a lot of fun. Again, talking our busts, our breakouts, and our sleepers. So much to talk about, and so many more guys that we could have hit upon for sure. So if we did not hit them, we would like you to hit them. So go ahead, comment down below. Let us know who your bust, your breakout, and your sleeper candidates are for this season. We'd love to hear them. We'd love to go back and forth as well in the comments too, and talk about it as well, because I always find it so interesting. As you can tell, we love fantasy football, and we would love to know what you think as well, because I always find it interesting what other people are thinking and what takes you guys are having as well. One of our busts could be your breakout, and vice versa. So it's really a great conversation to have.
So I got two holding you to 'ems here, like predictions that I'm going to ask you for.
Okay.
And they have nothing to do with fantasy.
Okay.
But on the record,
okay,
I want your opinions on these.
All
one
right.
has to do with the NFL. One is for college football.
Okay.
Number one, who's your Super Bowl and who's your pick? Just so I have it on the record. Who's in Brandon's Super Bowl and who's winning your Super Bowl?
So I haven't really thought about it.
Well, gun to the head. You got to think about it.
Chiefs from the AFC, of course.
Okay.
Because they should have probably gotten there last year. They just didn't play well.
You agreed with me. I have the Chiefs in mind.
So Chiefs for sure there. I'll go Rams.
Okay.
I'll go Chiefs, Rams.
Who's winning that
Chiefs.
Super Bowl? The Chiefs. And then finally, college football. Who do you think is going to win it all this year? I'm not going to ask you for a playoff. Just what team you think will win it all. Is it your boys? Is it Alabama? Good old boy's going to win the title?
I'm going to say Clemson again.
Okay. Yeah, you agreed with me. You can check both of those out. Predictions for both of those are up on the
And just
channel,
to let you know, I did not talk to Ricky about this beforehand, okay? Just so everyone knows.
No, I am off the cuff asking Brandon about it.
But I do think that Clemson...
I wanted it on the record.
I will say I think Clemson will be playing Alabama, though.
That's my 1-4. That's my semifinal matchup is Clemson, Alabama.
Yeah. So I think Clemson will play Alabama, and I think Clemson will win again.
Okay.
Very good.
Yeah, that's what I had. Just wanted to get it, like I said, on the record so I could look back and say, no, Brandon, this is what you said. We got it on tape.
And then you'll be saying, no, I said the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, that is going to wrap it up for us today. Thank you so much for tuning in again. We just love doing this. This is so much fun. And it's so exciting because football season is right around the corner. The real football season, not this preseason BS.
The faux season?
Yeah, the faux season, this all these preseason games,
Daniel
whatever.
Jones played so good.
Words never spoken.
He apparently did. It's like, it's preseason. He went up against third stringers, people. Paxton Lynch looked really good against third stringers against the Broncos.
Yes.
So, I mean, there's that.
There is that. So that'll wrap it up for us today. For Ricky Widmer, I'm Brandon Swanson saying so long. Again, check out our patreon.com page. Become a patron today. Just $1. That's all we're asking for. Certainly more, but just $1 will get you to be a patron. Again, thank you so much for watching and listening. And stay tuned for the fantasy football draft, the MVP fantasy football draft coming up soon. We'll have a video coming out. Check it out. So long, everybody.